Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And if you're new here, it's lovely to have you in this corner where we share a little more details than required. Do not forget to like this video. Do not forget to like any of my other videos. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel because I post a video every single week. And if I fail to post 1 week, I'm going to post 2 videos the coming week. So yeah, I'm that committed. And when it comes to comment, do not forget to comment, by the way. And when it comes to comments, you can always share anything. Since this video is about things I wish someone prepared me for, or that rather things I wish I knew before becoming a virtual assistant, you can share an experience, something that you experienced, or maybe that's something that you know now but you wish you knew before becoming a virtual assistant. You can share them in the comments, okay? Okay, just have discussions and conversations in the comments. I actually love having conversations about people's experiences and life in general. So share yours in the comments. I love reading them, and I always reply to comments, by the way. Okay, so let's dive into the video. Again, we are sharing a little more details than required, so be prepared. So the first thing I wish someone prepared me for, or rather the first thing I wish I knew before becoming a virtual assistant, is how much personal development being a virtual assistant will demand from me. Okay, and I think I've shared this story before, even if it's not here. I think I've shared it before, that when I got my first client as a VA in 2022. Okay, and I lost that client after some time of working together because I was not growing as a person. I got really comfortable. Okay, I was just making money, you know, and being comfortable. I was very satisfied with whatever I was getting, and I did not work on myself. I did not work on my growth. I did not work on like upskilling and working on like growing as a person. Okay, and so it got to a point where the business outgrew me. Okay, and the client outgrew me as well. So I lost the client because they needed more and I didn't have them more, and I could have gotten them more by just working on myself. Okay, and so I lost my first client, and I usually don't tell this story. I usually don't just include them because I think I made a lot of mistakes with this specific client. Okay, and so I spent 2 months without a client and got a new client after 2 months of looking for clients. Like I was basically starting from scratch. And so that's why I usually tend to just say my first client was in 2023, because the client in 2022 just came with a lot of different experiences than I anticipated. Okay, so being a virtual assistant demands a lot of personal development, and that is what I wish someone would have told me, or rather I wish I knew before I started becoming working as a virtual assistant, you know, because it demands a lot of communication. You have to learn how to communicate clearly and precisely and concisely. Okay, you have to learn how to put respect in words. Okay, and that was something that was also difficult for me. You have to learn how to be disciplined, and these are all just under personal growth. You have to learn how to be you have to learn a lot. You have to grow as a person, and you don't have a choice, by the way, because if you don't grow, the market demands a lot, especially, and it demands with also attaching that personal growth to the trends that are going on in the virtual assistant industry. Okay, and since the virtual assistant industry highly depends on the internet, you kind of have to grow with the trends that come with working on the internet and being available all the time on the internet. And it demanded a lot of personal growth. That is my point: communication, discipline, respect, you know. The second thing, this is number 2, the second thing that I wish someone told me, or rather I wish I knew before becoming a virtual assistant, is how much awareness it demanded. Okay, being a virtual assistant demands a lot of awareness. One, because you're working with people from different cultures. You're working with people from different parts of the world. Okay, and so what is offensive to you might be normal to them. What is normal to them might be offensive to you. You know, they're bigotry terms. They're just microaggressions and things that you really need to be aware of as a virtual assistant. Okay, and you need to be aware of them as yourself, for yourself, and also for your clients and their business. And so I was not prepared for how much awareness being a virtual assistant demanded from me. Okay, and I'm saying this as someone who was already hyper aware, but I just needed to learn how to translate that and manifest that into being a virtual assistant, because I just went into being a VA just to make money, like most people. Okay, I think anyone as a virtual assistant, especially those who are coming from like third world countries, or maybe I'll just say Africa and Kenya because I come from Kenya. Okay, as a Kenyan, I think I went into being a virtual assistant for the money. Obviously, I'm making money in euros, pounds, and dollars. So who would not want that? And I'm spending it in cash. So yeah, it's not about the money. And I think this is the third thing that I wish I knew before becoming a virtual assistant. It's not just something that is flexible. Okay, it's not freedom of time, really. It's not. I wish I knew this before I became a virtual assistant, because I went in expecting flexibility. I went in expecting less pressure, you know, working digital nomad and everything. And yeah, that is not it. You have to get results for your client. And sometimes that involves being more present that you would be in an on-site job, because trust is another issue. Okay, because if a client can trust you, a client from miles away from a different continent can trust you with their business, you have to get results for them in return. Okay, so it comes with a lot of pressure and not much flexibility, really, because you have to, like, again, back to the discipline, you have to own your role. Okay, you have to own the results that you get for your clients. And that is something I wish someone would have told me before becoming an assistant. Like, it's not about the dollars, it's not about making money in like a stronger currency. It's about the results that you're getting for your clients. Okay, and you don't expect as much flexibility, because I still work 9 hours a day. Okay, I still do work 9 hours a day. It's just that I work at the comfort of my own home, and I choose not to work with teams most of the time. Like, at the moment, I'm just working with only one client has a team. Okay, for the others, I'm like the only team member, and we just get to outsource some little, like, not really little, really, we get to outsource some tasks here and there, but I'm the only team member. So yeah, I wish someone would have told me it's not all about flexibility. Okay, something else. This is number 4. Okay, the first thing I wish I knew before becoming a virtual assistant is how unstable the finances can get. Okay, there is so much financial instability as a virtual assistant, because sometimes you have one client, sometimes you have 3, sometimes you're fully booked, sometimes you don't have a client. I've never really not had a client since I lost my first one. But yeah, and so I had to learn a lot of financial literacy, how to save, how to invest, how to balance my income, how to not translate having one client or maybe losing a client to myself. And that is something else I need to talk about, because when you're starting out as a virtual assistant, it's easy to feel like the rejection is because of you, but sometimes it's just that rejection. You know, you don't have to like overthink it and maybe just try to make it be about you. And sometimes it's about you, of course, but not always. So that is something else I wish someone would have prepared me for, you know, handling rejection. Because as a virtual assistant, like, the most given feedback is rejection. Okay, when you're doing outreach, you get ghosted a lot. You get a lot of, when you're applying for roles, you get a lot of rejection. So I wish someone would have prepared me for the amount of rejection and how comfortable I need to get with rejection before I became a virtual assistant. Okay, and then something else that is a little bit sensitive, I wish someone prepared me for the judgment and the being misunderstood, and I don't want to call it a picture, because it's something larger than that, and how I'm perceived. Okay, and the perception that is out there. I wish someone would have told me, or rather, I just wish I knew how much judgment, just out of like face value, I was going to get as a virtual assistant. And this is coming from someone who's lived in Kenya. Like, you get a lot of judgment, you get a lot of, like, it's a lot of bigotry. Again, it's a lot of racism, a lot of colorism, a lot of classism, you know, a lot of isms that happen. And so I wish I knew those, you know. I wish I was more prepared for racist comments. I wish I was more prepared for racist responses. I wish I was more prepared to be judged based on where I come from, that is Kenya. Because having lived in Kenya, you know, and just visited a few countries here and there, I think I just went in like just expecting life to be normal, but no. Okay, I've received a lot of racism, received a lot of colorism, a lot of classism, a lot of isms. Okay, a lot of like, yeah, I think I'll just leave that topic. I think you get my point. I wish I knew I needed a community. I wish I built a community when I was starting out as a virtual assistant, because as I speak now, I have experience as a VA, and any community I tend to join, I find that most of the people in that community are kind of beginners, and so we end up in this unbalanced mentorship type of friendship. Okay, like, I tend to become more of a mentor than a friend, and so it becomes lonely for me, you know. And so I tend to not join communities altogether, not because I don't want to help, but because that is not what I'm looking for in a community right now. I'm looking for a community where we can have conversations about not being a VA and how much you're making, but more about how being a VA impacts our lives, just growth in general that comes with being a VA, not actually trying to mentor or maybe trying to network, trying to, delegate work from someone. No, I can do that on YouTube, I can do that on TikTok, but yeah, I wish I built my network and grew with them from the beginning, because right now it's very lonely. Sometimes you look around and all I see are just screens. 9 hours of the day, every single day, just screens all the time, especially since I mentioned I don't work with team. So that is something I wish I knew before I started as a volunteer. I think I should have just made VA friends, beginner VA friends at that time, and then grew together with them. Something else is networking. I wish someone told me networking really matters as a virtual assistant. Okay, and I think that is just self-explanatory. Networking has a lot of importance. Okay, something else I wish someone would prepare me is for the boundaries. Okay, and in the case, I don't have a problem with setting boundaries. I have a problem with setting too strong boundaries, non-flexible, like almost conservative type of boundaries. Okay, because when you're setting out, I did not know how to read when to be flexible a bit with my boundaries and when to put them back up. Okay, and I'm going to give an example. Maybe during onboarding, a client is hiring you as a virtual assistant because they need help. Okay, but before they onboard everything to you, they give you the SOPs, they now delegate everything, because before you have a system of working together, that is not the time for me to be upholding my boundaries of not working past 9 p.m. or maybe not working over weekends, because sometimes that is the only time your client is available. Okay, they're already busy enough, so that sometimes that is the only time the client is available for a call. Sometimes that is the only time. So I had a problem. I found it very difficult to move those boundaries around. Okay, because I felt like I'm letting them go. And so I wish I learned how to be flexible with my boundaries before becoming a virtual assistant, because it became a really problem with my first client. Because even sometimes when you're maybe approaching launch, sometimes you demand more. Your client is busy, you're busy, so the only time you can get to fix a call, maybe to just have a real conversation about their business, is maybe over the weekend. And sometimes that is okay. That is not you going against your boundaries. And I wish I knew that before becoming a virtual assistant, because I was just transferring what I was doing outside of being a VA into being a VA. And then something else is identity. I wish someone told me how much it's important to have an identity as a virtual assistant. Okay, because when I was starting out, I thought I'll just wing it like it's any type of job. No, it's not any form of job, because being a virtual assistant is a lot of mental load, and it's a lot of you that's showing up. Okay, because the tools can be found anywhere else. Anyone else can use the tools. In order for you to be a VA that stands out, you have to bring your identity into a business, and that is what makes you that's your value proposition. Okay, and so I wish I knew how strong of an identity I needed to have before becoming a virtual assistant, if I did not want to get lost in the noise. Because at first I did get lost in the confusion and the noise of it all, but I had to just go back to the drawing board. I had to go back to just me being myself and show up as myself, and that is not something that is very common, by the way. And so yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. I think that is it for today. Thank you for watching. If I keep going, this video is going to be way longer than some of you can focus on. So thank you for watching. Do not forget to like, do not forget to leave a comment, share something you wish you knew before becoming a virtual assistant in the comments, and also subscribe to my channel.